Well, we are now joined by one of the leading tour operators in Kenya, Minaz Manji, the CEO of Twiga Tours. Just to shed some light on, we heard the tourism industry has been going through a lot of late. So far, how would you describe the state of affairs?
I don't think that I should be saying it's of late. The industry has been struggling for a while, especially after the Westgate incident. And of course, we don't seem to have recovered fully from that, the effects of that terrible incident. But obviously, you know, as we were struggling and we were moving on, we've had this other difficult challenge, and those are the security issues that have been afflicting our nation. And unfortunately, and much to our concern, we've now had the travel advisories imposed upon us by the UK and other governments. Mm-hmm. So all in all, the industry is having a very difficult time. It's a big challenge, but it's not a new challenge in the sense that we've had these challenges previously. I mean, in my own, if I look at my own history in this business since the 1980s, we've had some challenges that we've had to overcome. And as a result, we've, I think, gone more and more resilient, and we've learned a lot how to deal with such kind of issues. So initial reaction, of course, to this additional advisory imposed by the Western governments was, of course, one of frustration, one of anger. But I think we can now look at it in a positive light. If you now look at this whole challenge that's been presented to us, and with His Excellency the President also, you know, accepting that this industry is having a difficult time and recognizing that fact, I think that everybody is now very keen on ensuring that the industry recovers very quickly. And I think the first and foremost person to do this is, of course, His Excellency the President, when he's, you know, come out to recognize that the industry is suffering, number one. Number two, he's come out to offer certain incentives to the industry to try and get it back on track.
Do you think the incentives will try to cushion the tour operators going forward?
You know, we are all human, and we always want more. But I want to look at it again from a very positive side. His Excellency the President, by his statement and by these incentives, has of course recognized that the industry is having a difficulty. He has offered these incentives. Now obviously the industry wants a lot more, but this is a start. It is a start to understanding what more we would require from the government, and it has pulled the entire industry together. If I may just quote some associations that have actually come very, very closely together under the banner of the Kenyan Tourism Federation, the air operators, the hotel keepers, the tour operators, the Association of Travel Agents. So all these have come together and are now having a dialogue with the policymakers, in particular with His Excellency the President, to see how and what needs to be done. But I think that it has also helped the industry to realize that we had been too reliant on the Western world to provide us with the big numbers that we want. And I think that the President hit the nail on the head when he said that you need to look to the East as well. You need to look at emerging markets. You need to look at other economies that are upcoming and try and promote, within, say for example, within Africa, and also our domestic tourism, where we can now pull our resources in all these different directions and get the numbers that we want.
A lot has happened on Twitter, on Facebook, on the social media platforms, and the reputation out there that Kenya has among the international community, especially people who want to visit Kenya, is that there's a lot of terror attacks in Kenya, and other than that, issues to deal with security are coming out strongly. As someone in the tour industry, what do you make of this?
Again, I want to say and start off by saying this, that, you know, and I'm not attacking the media for any reason whatsoever. Of course, the media has a responsibility to inform the public. But when you have a situation, for example, of any crime-related incident, and it is blown out of proportion. It gets front-page news, and that then is picked up by the foreign media and is splashed all over the world. Obviously, that destination is going to have it very difficult because people will suddenly begin to realize that, you know what, this country is at war, and that's how it goes. I mean, I can give you another example. For example, we have all the foreign correspondents based in Nairobi. They may be talking about, let's say, Somalia or Ethiopia or Southern Sudan. But at the close of that story, they will say, I am XYZ reporting live from Nairobi. People's geography is short, and I'm one of those. So people will immediately equate that situation in, say, Somalia as one very close or behind the back of that particular correspondent in Nairobi. So we need to be very positive about the kind of stories that we present. We need to also be able to present more positive news of our destination. People want to, as much as you know, sad and difficult stories, or should I say tragic stories, sell, the negatives sell, we also need to be more positive towards our destination to create an impression, to correct, I would say, the impression, the wrong impression that people have that, you know, there is trouble in Kenya. I mean, look at it, we are a peaceful people. Yes, we have our own issues that I believe we needs immediate addressing. But having said that, we also, from the other side of the fence, need to understand that, you know, we need to present more positive stories about the destination so that people don't get the wrong impression. And of course, you know, this is the first step, and I would urge the nation media and other local medias to actually start looking at themselves and saying, you know what, we need to be more positive towards our country. Yes, people want to know what's going on, and you have a responsibility, but at the same time, I think that positive news, in my opinion, also sells.
One thing that I would want you to be honest with, how is the state of affairs in terms of your business line?
Let me address this in two different parts. Let's look at the cost. The cost, you know, there's been a lot of hullabaloo that hotels are closing down, people have been laid off. But let's look at the real part of it. Is it because of these advisories that we had imposed on us a week or 10 days ago? I don't think so. This is the low season. During the low season, many hotels on the south coast, in places like Malindi and other areas of the coast, either slow down because they want to renovate their properties, and of course it is also considered our rainy season, so it is the low season when numbers drop. So such hotels then also either partially closed down or fully closed down to make renovations to their properties, because it needs to, you know, after 1 year of full time operations, it needs to find some time, say a month or 2 months, in order to revamp their property. So saying that, you know, this difficult situation arises from by courtesy of the advisory of the British government, I don't agree. If you look at the safari circuit, again, it is our rainy season, you know, April, May, and June. So numbers are low. Of course, we are having it difficult because when you have such an advisory, then those that were coming from those countries and other countries may follow suit and start reconsidering their plans. But I think that if you look at the July, August, and September, which is our peak season, the wildebeest do not require visas to come into Kenya or back into Tanzania, and they will continue with their movement. You know, there is no politics here. So a lot of people enjoy watching the wildebeest migration. You know, there are millions of wildebeest in the Masai Mara, and obviously people want to come and experience that. So in my opinion, I think that July, August, and September we can hold out with fairly good numbers. It may not necessarily be as many as we would have hoped to because of these certain situations that are ongoing. But I think that we should be able to hold out. Mm-hmm. And I think that I would also add that the Kenyan people are a very resilient people. You know, we have gone through many challenges and we never give up. We always work harder and harder to ensure that we are able to pull through difficult times. And I think this is it. We are going to pull through.
Finally, what is the outlook like in terms of the numbers?
I couldn't tell you for sure, you know, but as I said, July, August, September, if I were to speak on my own company's behalf, we are not seeing so many cancellations as we thought we would. Yes, immediately after the advisory, we had some major concerns. Some, of course, decided or opted not to travel to Kenya and made decisions to travel elsewhere. However, those that had made firm plans, I think are still going to travel, and I think that we can probably pull through in July, August, and September. My concern then would be, what after then? We need to try and establish or find a way of making this industry what it used to be, the 12-month preferred safari destination. And that's, I think, what the tourism industry is now trying to dialogue with others, interested parties, you know, the policymakers, the Kenyan Tourist Board, the private operators and so forth, and hoteliers, etc., to try and find ways of reclaiming our position. You know, at the end of the day, Kenya is the home of safari. We provide an authentic experience to visitors into Africa. So I don't see why we cannot reclaim our position again.
Thank you very much, Minaz.
You're welcome.
That was Minaz Manji of Twiga Tour Operators, who's joining us just to shed light on what's happening in the tourism sector, and we shall be keeping an eye on this sector moving forward.